Are we on? Okay. The top 10 episodes of KMS 2024, an unbiased, crafted, beautiful list of episodes. There's probably some ones that I missed, and I would admit to those mistakes, but we're going to live with the list that I created, and we're going to go from there. There's a lot of good things to look back on this year, a lot of quality content put out. And, some people hated the basketball, some people enjoyed the basketball, some people hated uh, the producer situation throughout the entire year. But guess what? I think the show right now is in a great place. And I think it's hard to say otherwise. So let's go to number 10. The number 10, hate that you have to see me there that close. The number 10 episode of the year. Some would say recency bias. I would not. Episode titled "It's a Monday," featuring Blind Mike and Mike Montante, who Kirk appears to hate right now, but that's besides the point. In this episode, we meet Josh the agent, Joshua Kuznick, is that his name? The so-called agent from Florida, who is one of the great psychopaths of the year, maybe the most psychotic person outside of maybe Beyond Average Mick that we saw on the show this year. This was, of course, a situation that involved Mick, his reporting on the Juan Soto and the Red Sox potential deal. The top quote of the episode, which we're going to do one of these for every single episode chosen. The top quote is, quote, "I don't fucking know, ask Mick," which is Josh the agent quoting after being asked where he believed Juan Soto would go. Funny moment there. Bitsville a little bit with Josh the agent, but a fun little call-in, a couple of call-ins, I suppose, that he had into the show on that day. And then, Montante leaves Bubba a controversial $100 tip. A lot of discussion with that. And then we learn more of Justin's mutt-like tendencies on his drive home from the Patriots game after having allegedly, I guess, several beers on his way home from the Patriots game. So that's number 10, is titled "It's a Monday." Let's go to number 9. Number 9. Load it up. Here we go. Mutt's Ice, featuring Blind Mike, Cullinane, and Mutt. This was, of course, Mutt sitting in the producer chair alongside Justin with the second producer role up in the air post-Coleman. This is the post-Coleman era. The top quote of this episode is, quote, Blind Mike kind of mocking Justin and, casually dropping this little bomb on us with, the whole Shaq situation that's discussed several times throughout the year. Quote, "Hey, Justin, this is him mocking a girl from the Shack. Not mocking the message, just, repeating what he believed, paraphrasing the message. Okay, I'll get to it. Hang on. Hey, Justin, I'm getting a job at my college bookstore this semester. Could you write me a recommendation?" That's Blind Mike saying what Ashley Shack he heard in the car, what she sent Justin via text message. So very interesting there. We also hear, of course, Gilroy's just, I've never been on Mike and the Minifans. I don't think they'll ever ask me. Nobody knows me in this world. That's fine. But Gilroy was just brutal on Mike and the Minifans. They discussed that performance, just him attacking Justin and that. Pretty funny, but still just a weird, terrible performance from Gilroy. Mick leaves the world after the Dakotas trip. This is after that. We learned that Mutt's dad is apparently referred to as the Viking, which that comes up a few more times throughout the year. And then Kirk remarks that people are crazy for wanting Cullinane back as the producer. A little foreshadowing there, potentially, with what we know just a few weeks to a month later. Let's go to number 8. The number 8 episode of the year on my list for the Kirk Minahan Show 2024. By the way, I've been listening to the show long enough now to where, people think that they have a good feel after listening for 3 or 4 years. You don't. I don't. But, people are going to disagree with my list. It's fine. I don't care. Not worried about that at all. I think it's a pretty good list. I don't even know why I'm saying this right now. Let's move on. Number 8, Coleman Says Goodbye, featuring Blind Mike and Coleman, July 29th, 2024. The end of the Coleman era after he resigned in disgrace. Very Morty Seinfeld-esque, yellow shirt guy-esque, some would say. The top quote on this one is a dandy from Coleman. "When I'm in on something, I'm in 100%." Coleman with one of the greatest false statements of all time. Just a lot of rehashing the Canopy Lake situation and what went down with Coleman and what went wrong. A lot of that in this particular episode. But I figured I had to add something. There's not really any Andrew Augustus stuff in this. And obviously, he left his post as a producer earlier in the year, the very beginning of the year. But I didn't do much with him, so I figured you had to throw Coleman a bone. big part of this year was that both producers hired in the producer search last year are gone already. So that's number 8. Number 7, titled 2 Weeks Unpaid, featuring Blind Mike and Cullinane. This is July 15th, 2024. Justin is coming off of a content weekend at Canopy Lake Park while Coleman sleeps in and doesn't go along for the trip. He gets suspended for 2 weeks, obviously. And I think this is a great quote. And at the time, where Kirk was with Justin and what his thoughts were and what Justin's maybe focus was at the time on the show. A lot of discussion now. Justin wants the producer seat alone, people were saying, or at least Kirk was saying in this episode. Cullinane saying the same thing. But this was a great quote, especially given this is the first episode after the July 13th situation at Butler. I'm wearing my this has nothing to do with it, but I hate communists, the misquoted one. I'm wearing that shirt right now. Thank you. Quote from Kirk here: "Trump is alive and Lynn is dead." Thought that was a great quote. Really goes with what was going on in the show at that time. We also find out that Justin has a sister, which her showering tendencies are brought up several more times throughout the year. And then Coleman has a video game problem, and it shows. That's also discussed in the episode. And then Cullinane is wrapped up in his TikTok journalism during the Karen Reed case. That was also discussed in this episode. Of course, just a couple months later, Cullinane, welcome back. I didn't put that episode on here, by the way. Cullinane returns. That's featuring Blind Mike and Mayo, I believe. I didn't put that on there. I thought Mayo ruined that episode, but that's a good honorable mention if we're going to have those, which I don't, but that would be one of them there. Number 6. Let's go to number 6. Number 6 is titled The Big O, featuring Glenn Ordway and Mutt. Radio legend Glenn Ordway comes on KMS. Top quote comes from the Big O himself, the sports radio legend. Quote, "You got to get a job, dude." That's what Ordway says to Mutt. Very, very funny quote towards the end of the episode as well. So don't think that never mind. Recap of Greg Polar's debut in the KMS basketball team is discussed. Thought Polar had a pretty good game, but he didn't have a lot of wind, I would say, would be my take from that. They discuss Ordway's career in the Larry Bird Hall of Fame. And then the Mutt Stack continues to take the world by storm. I have a subscriber to the Mutt Stack. I know that he's banned from the show for a year, so I don't know how much I can say. But shout out to that, I guess. All right. My system's going slow here, but we're going to go to number 5. Let's do number 5 if we can get there. 5 is something. I'll tell you that. It's titled Buckle Up, featuring Mutt, Mayo, Mick, and Justin. And, Mayo traditionally ruins a lot of episodes. I think he was on 3 this year at least. But this one did make the cut. January 4th, 2024. The show starts late on YouTube and begins in the middle of the Mick situation where Mick is freaking out over Kirk Kirk asking for him to get him a water bottle since he didn't have one. Mick freaks out. It's a whole thing about how he thinks Augustus is going to be back. Of course, Gus eventually was not back. Mick wanted a guarantee. It was a whole big thing. His infamous walkout, the look on Mutt's face throughout Mick's madness before walking out is really, really something to watch. If you just single in on Mutt for that 15 to 20 minutes or whatever of Mick's freaking out, man, that's a very funny part of the episode. This quote from Mick I thought was just showed the height of his insanity at this point. You know exactly what you were doing with that water. You pretend you didn't, which I think is hilarious. And then Mayo's on high alert and frightened that Mick may show back up with a weapon to the studio. I thought Mayo was dreadful as always, but I think I agree with Kirk, and not that Kirk wants me to agree with him, but Mayo is a necessary part of the show every once in a while. I think that's a fair point. All right, let's do the next one. I believe is number 4. Yes, number 4. All right, number 4. Scratch Off Scam, featuring Blind Mike and Greg Polar, August 5th, 2024, the final Polar episode of the year. Hopefully we see him in a studio next year. Obviously, he did the debate with Montante a couple months after this. Solo Justin era at this point, with Polar in studio for the second time in 2024. This is right before the Dakotas trip. Polar bringing up, of course, him wanting Mick, Justin, and Mike to stream the car ride. Of course, boy, oh boy, did they, and did that create a lot of controversy. The top quote is a great one from Kirk. Well, I guess I should say before this, Kirk, Greg, and Blind Mike try to get to the bottom of the Dick Hogan's retirement situation. Of course, Bubba's friend Dick Hogan, who passed away, they try to get to the bottom of his retirement situation. Then Bubba's scratch-off ticket scam, as they call it. Kirk's quote, though, here, this is a great one. He's reading a message from somebody who says, quote, "I got a couple messages, one specific. 23 years is the exact amount of time you need to retire from the MBTA. Dick Hogan is a grifter," which that got some laughs. I thought that was a very, very funny quote. There's so many quotes that I could pick from this specific episode, but I thought this one was great. Great episode overall, though. Really, really enjoyed it. Let's do number 3. Without further ado, number 3. Teen Titans, another one that people can say recency bias. 2 December episodes I chose. I think people are going to call recency bias, and that's fine. I think there's a couple episodes I could have also put on this list that didn't make it, but this one here, over 3 hours, just a phenomenal episode featuring Blind Mike and Ted Sellers, December 9th, 2024. Just Justin goes from finding a woman in prison to send a letter to Dave revealing his search history, which features a lot of porn, including OnlyFans, and then his subscription to a young-looking, braced-faced Jimma Wren becomes troubling by the second, and maybe the best Justin quote in show history. I mean, it's got to be up there. Quote, "You don't have to jerk off to enjoy Teen Titans." Yeah, this episode was really something. This might be my favorite episode of the year. I don't think it was the top episode of the year, but I think number 3 is a good spot for it. It's a really, really, really good episode. A lot of revealing stuff. A lot of stuff we kind of already knew about Justin, if we're being honest, but this was just a great episode. Really good. Let's do number 2. Number 2 takes us back to the Coleman era, the Coleman Challenge, as it becomes known. 8 Down, featuring Blind Mike, March 4th, 2024. The episode that began the Coleman Challenge to name the top 10 home run hitters of all time. All roads, of course, lead to Jim Thome. The episode runs nearly 12 hours, and it's part 1 of 3. People also forget, this episode also features, I put also twice there. That was really stupid. That was very Justin, like him writing that letter. Features network drama. Clemmer's 100-hour isolation stream is discussed. That disaster. Dale Arnold bailed on a signing event, and a call from GB. Graham Bennett calls into the show. A great call from him. But this episode, like I said, almost 12 hours. The top quote, Justin just randomly, drops his slice of pizza, comes up to the mic and says, quote, "Did you know John Thomas means penis?" So there you go. Good quote from Justin, I guess, whatever that means. But it's time for number 1, folks. Number 1, the number 1 episode of the year. Drum roll, please. I don't know what that sounds like. It probably sounds really bad. All right, let's do it. Number 1, Your League's Done, Jeff, featuring Mutt and Steve from Gloucester. January 24th, 2024. January and December, both multiple episode months. This is the longest regular episode of the year. It's over 4 hours. A lot to listen to with this one. There's dozen trivia drama after Kirk trades himself to Smockin. The whole Mark Titus wake up Mincy bit that pisses Kirk off, rightfully so. Portnoy takes issue with that. I forgot to put the S in takes there. That's on me. I was rushing through these. I apologize. He starts his own live golf style trivia league. Crazy stuff there. Dave Portnoy calls in. Jeff DeLoe calls in. Big Cat, former friend of the show, calls in. Clemmer calls in. Rico calls in. Then you just have, Robert Eiler and Jamie Lynn Sigler from The Sopranos interviewed in the middle of it. Steve from Gloucester being there is a pretty funny part of this. Just a phenomenal episode. I will say a side note. Let's do the quote first. Top quote. Justin getting hot with the quotes down the stretch here. Did you see that Chuck Schumer is trying to ban Zens? Quote Justin with a mindlessly stupid question that Kirk doesn't care about. A lot of politics from Justin in this episode. And that's one of them. Like, what is Kirk going to say about that? I don't understand that at all. If Ryan Whitney was there, a guy who we know loves the nicotine pouches, the question would make more sense, but it doesn't. Side note, though, I think there's like a 75% chance that Coleman and Steve from Gloucester were having relations at this time, possibly sexual. Coleman acts really weird. He's weird a lot of times, but really weird around Stephen Gloucester. I found that kind of weird, but that's the list. That's my top 10 episodes of the year for the Kirk Minahan Show. Thank you for watching. I hope there's discourse in the comments about whether this list was good or bad, whether people disagree or agree. It's been a great year. Really enjoyed the show this year. Thank you again, folks. With that, good night.